Hello, YouTube again. It's Jonathan at the Piano Lesson, and it's getting to be summer soon, and we're gonna get the summer music out. I don't know what kind of summer music you like, but I guess to be summer, I like kind of playing some of the, I guess what people used to call jazz fusion or jazz rock or rock jazz or fusion rock jazz or jazzy fusion rock. um, I like Dave Grusin a lot, and if you look up Dave Grusin, he's very prolific writer for films, but also just great composer in general. And I like Lee Ritenour a lot, who's a guitar player, great guitar player, and they've worked together a lot. And there's a few tunes that I kind of like to play that they've been associated with or written. And like all of you, I spend my time tooling around on YouTube and listening to tunes. And I came across a nice tune which I've heard before that I believe Lee had written. It's kind of funny. They don't put the composer's name, but they're on his records. But very often they don't actually put the composer's names in on the sheet music, which is pretty odd to me. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you go on YouTube and you'll see, the person who's singing the record is also credited with writing the song, which is completely wrong. And let's see what Wikipedia has to say. It is a song by Lee Ritenour, okay. Because he plays another tune which I like called Punta del Sol, which was written by Dave Grusin. And interestingly enough, both of these tunes are, the sheet music is on the website, which I thought was really cool. Now, I've been playing Punta del Sol for a while. In fact, I'll just play a little bit for a second. It almost sounds like Smoke on the Water to me. And it doesn't start on count one. I've heard this melody played a bunch of different ways. and then the rest kind of like usually you do a lot of just soloing on 2 chords, and so it's G minor and C7. That's the whole solo section. I mean, sometimes people play over the actual changes, and this pattern where you go chromatically, D flat 13 to D to C13, but it's G minor, and these fourths, stacked fourths, A, D, G. You know, dun dun dun. Smoke on the Water was dun or what was it? Wasn't that Smoke on the Water? What was it? Deep Purple? I don't know. But it's just a cool summer jam tune. These sounds kind of using this is a 6 chord, E, A, C, and going down chromatically. Guitar players play that a lot. You know, it's kind of a nice voicing on a guitar, but that's the kind of a funkier. Using the blues, those blues lines. Those are parallel sixths. Hear that a lot in country music. So that's the jam, kind of like a nice jam tune. The chords themselves are pretty hard though, actually, and I still, for the life of me, haven't quite figured out the logic of them. But they just work so well. G minor, F major, E flat, then D minor, C minor. So, I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, very often you hear in Spanish music, you know, you hear this kind of, that little tetrachord there, that's a Phrygian tetrachord. So if you build chords on that, G, F, E flat, D, minor, major, major, typically you hear major. In this case, it's minor. Minor, minor. Isn't that interesting? You know, so, you know, I mean, that's really kind of a Phrygian scale. It's a Phrygian mode, and I think that's kind of the sound of it. Except you got that E natural there. I like playing passing chord E, E7 flat 5, D minor, C minor, then the bridge, C minor, A sus, so this is B minor 7 with A in the bass, A7 flat 9, D minor, A flat 13, G13, that's kind of cool. And this is A flat 11, and then this is B over A. Listen to that. It's like a sharp 11, and then major 7, and then A7 flat 5, and then A flat minor 9, G minor, C7 flat 9, F minor, A flat, and then you got, B flat minor, E flat 7, and then they have A minor in the sheet music, and then D. That's pretty interesting. Let me just double check a couple of those chords there, because I think I kind of just flubbed something there just a little bit. I got that right. A flat. They have A flat 9. It's A flat 11, really. G minor, C7 sharp 5, F minor. This chord, A minor 11, D flat, and then you have C minor, B flat minor, E flat, A minor 11, and then D. So you go to Lee Ritenour's website and pull that chart right off the web. The other tune I found really interesting, there's a tune, Is It You? Now, the thing I like about this tune is that it starts in a very kind of counterintuitive way. It starts in a different meter. And it really perplexed me for a long time because I was listening to this tune, and I was convinced that it wasn't written correctly initially. And then I realized that it was really mainly the notation that I had some qualms with. And actually, I'm just going to kind of share that with you right now. I'm just going to write that little bit on. Oh no! What happened to my camera? My screen camera. Let me see if I can. I guess I can't. I don't know if I can correct that or not. Let me see if I can. Let's see if I can. Correct that for a second. Oh, it looks like I can. Looks like also I kind of whacked my camera out of alignment here. How horrible. Let's see if I got that now. Hey, there we are. Okay, all fixed. So they start in, he writes it in 3/4, and then he goes into common time, and he initially writes it. I'm going to write it incorrectly first, okay? So he starts out with a quarter note, and then an eighth, and then another quarter note, and then another eighth, okay? And then there's a new measure. Now, that's all we need to kind of start with, because the next measure, the rhythm's the same. All right, so technically that does equal 3 counts, okay? 1 count, 2 counts, and the 2/8 notes are 3 counts. But it's an awkward way to write it. No one really writes music that way. And the reason is because you can't really see where the beat is. It's just odd. So what I would have done, which I'm going to do now, is I would use a tie. I think a tie would be much clearer. So I would do this. Okay, I'd put my eighth there, and then I would have another 2/8 notes right there, and I would tie those. 1 and 2 and 3 and that makes it, to me, that's easier. Okay. The other thing he does in the sheet music, so I'm just kind of telling you, if you download the sheet music, it may look weird to you, but that looked weird to me. All right. The other thing I found weird is that he has the following chords, and he starts out with 2 flats in the key of B flat major 7, and then D flat over E flat. So that's fine. That's this. That's an 11 sound. So B flat, up a 4th to E flat, makes perfect sense. Down a 5th to A flat major 7. That you would expect. Okay, and then you would expect to go up a 4th again to what note? D flat. He writes it as C sharp, and then he goes down to G flat, which is strange. So that's a spelling. It's clearly a spelling mistake. So now, why does he do that? Well, so because the next chord he writes is B over C sharp, rather than, as opposed to having the root as D flat. Well, if he has the root as D flat, then this would have to be C flat. Okay, and do you understand why? Do you understand why? It's C flat and B are enharmonic equivalents. And I can see why someone might think that's a little weird. But, you know, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's going to G flat. It's going to G flat major 7. So you pretty much got to go, you know, B flat, up a fourth to E flat, down a fifth to A flat, up a fourth to D flat, down a fifth to G flat, and then it's F. F11. They have F sus 7. So whenever you see sus in jazz music, pretty much know that it's like one of these kind of polychord type things, E flat over F, right? Here's the root, here's the 7th, 11th, 13. That's the sound. And sometimes even the D, E flat major 7, sometimes even that. Now, how do you get around that C flat chord? You know, I mean, it's basically a D flat chord, you know, so that's why I don't think you need to freak out about the C flat. I mean, a D flat 7 is D flat, F, A flat, C flat. Those are the notes in the chord. So I don't see that as a big deal, really. You could, right? I mean, if you're starting in the key, you'd have to start in the key of B flat. There's no such thing as the key of A sharp, and you're going up to E flat, down to A flat, and then here, if he's going up to C sharp, I would almost prefer, you know, if I used this, I would want to call this F sharp major 7. I mean, I would want to split the difference and call it F sharp major 7, you know, and then F. So why am I bringing this up? You know, I used to write a lot of music let me get back here. I used to write a lot of music for some big ensembles. And the one feedback I always got from people, which I was very happy about, was that, you know, I spent a lot of time making sure that my music was written carefully and clearly and thoughtfully in consideration of the other musicians, because I was on so many gigs in my life where I just get handed garbage, you know, and it kind of, it just pisses you off to have to read a really ratty piece of music that's hasn't been written clearly. Now, my handwriting isn't the greatest, but I really would. We do everything now on computer, but I had a good hand. I had a nice hand. I did everything in calligraphy. Actually, I had a pretty nice music calligraphy hand, and and that's an art that's gone away, but it's super fun. And you know, music notation really is an art form. There's more than one correct way to write something. There's more than one way to communicate something, and sometimes we run into problems when we notate music because there are limitations in our language, and we get kind of boxed into a corner and might have to sort of split the difference. Okay, well, that's fine. But I always felt good when I'd hand people my music, and I'd very often hear compliments saying, like, you know, I always like playing your music because it's really clear. And I heard someone once say, he says, you know, when I get handed a bad piece of music, he says, like, I'm satisfied if I get like 90% of it. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want people playing 90% of my music. I want people playing 100% of my music. So, you know, there's just something to think about. And there's a lot of, well, people are kind of going fast and loose on the internet with music publishing. And there's just a huge amount of illiteracy. And I mean it in the nicest way possible. I mean, I'm not saying I'm so great or anything, but, you know, it's the internet really has done a disservice to music literacy, because there's just a plethora of music that's published out there that is written in a bizarre manner, and it's not helping people. It's really hurting people. So that's why I'm just kind of going through this extra effort, because when I look at the score myself, and it's a new tune, like, you know, I don't really know it, but I want to kind of understand it. So I understand music in terms of patterns, and like a lot of people do, in terms of fourths and fifths, okay, you know, and something that's kind of logical. So those are the two things I would do. I would either write that as C flat over D flat, or I would simply I might call this C sharp. The thing I don't like about calling the C sharp is that we're coming off of an A flat, and it's such a nice bass line. So but the other interesting thing about this, the interesting thing about this introduction is that it's in 3. It's in 3/4, and the beat is this. I played the wrong note. Sorry. So that's the tune. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and my snapping got messed up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a. So that's the tune. Really cool rhythms, little snappy rhythms. But the introduction, 2-bar introduction in a meter of 3, and you hear, the quarter note doesn't change, okay? And it almost sounds, I'm still a little frustrated with it because it almost sounds like a hemiola, but it's really not, I don't think. And it almost sounds like 2 against 3, but it's really not. But if you think about maybe doing 2 more measures of that, da do da dee dee da da dee bo ba ba be do da ba dum. That might be an interesting phrase. So, and then anyway, after those 2 measures, it goes into 4. I was also toying with the idea you could do 1 measure of 6/4. That's possible, but the accent, he is accenting on count 3 of the next measure. Ba do dee da da. He's doing that instead of ba do dee da do da da da. That would be 6, right? So what's the difference between 6/4 and 3/4? 6/4 is a compound meter, and where you'd have an accent on count 1 of the second measure. In this instance, that accent would be count 4, 4, 5, 6, right? And it would be softer. So the tune. D minor, G minor, C minor. That's all it is. It's kind of cool tune. And use suspension, E flat over F. And the melody. Chromatic C sharp minor, back to D minor. That's the whole tune. That's the whole thing. D minor, G minor. And then the bridge is really cool. So the bridge is E flat major, C over D, G minor, C13, to hide your love. So that's G flat major. E flat out over F, B flat minor, E flat 7 or 13, G flat major 7, F sus, and then it goes back to that introduction. Run away tune. So that's my little project for the summer. My little fun tunes. You know, all these tunes were written, I guess that was written in the early 80s, but, you know, a lot of tunes from like the 70s, early 80s, very optimistic and, you know, full of youth and energy, and, you know, that's really pretty sounds. Anyway, maybe you want to share some of your tunes that you liked, that you want to, that you played during. So there's also another tune that I like, Dave Grusin's tunes called Modaji, which you can find on YouTube, which maybe I'll go over next week. But yeah, some of these songs just, you know, kind of bubbling up to the surface again. You know, changing weather. I'm not going to be playing around midnight. Okay, you know, probably not. You know, great tune, but that's for the winter. Okay, well, I think we've done enough today, and I appreciate you being here. And this is Jonathan at the piano lesson, and gonna sign off, and we'll see you next time. Adios.